My name is Curtis Hall, and this all started the evening I walked through the front door after another long day at the construction site. My work boots were heavy on the hardwood floor, every step echoing the fatigue in my legs and the grit of concrete dust still clinging to my clothes. The smell of takeout Chinese food hit me first, which was unusual since my wife typically cooked during the week. "Honey, you are home. Perfect timing." Her voice floated from the kitchen. It was unusually cheerful, almost giddy, like the way she had sounded on our wedding day. That tone immediately made something in my stomach tighten. It was not happiness exactly, more like a warning bell. I found her at the kitchen table, her laptop open and papers scattered around like she had been working on some kind of project all day. My wife, Rashida, was still in yoga pants and a soft gray hoodie, her curly hair tied up in a scarf. She looked relaxed, almost too relaxed for someone who usually came home exhausted from her marketing firm job. "Hey, how was your day?" I asked, setting my hard hat on the counter and heading to the sink to wash the dust off my hands. My shoulders ached from lifting steel beams, and all I wanted was a shower and a quiet meal. "Actually, I have incredible news." Rashida leaned forward, her eyes bright. "Sit down. You're going to love this." She patted the chair next to her, practically bouncing with excitement, like she had just won the lottery or gotten promoted. I dried my hands on a dish towel and sat down slowly. "Okay," I said, trying to match her tone, even as my muscles protested sitting instead of collapsing on the couch. "What is going on?" "I quit my job today." The words hung in the air between us for a full beat, then another. It felt like the whole apartment went quiet, even the hum of the refrigerator fading into the background. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, or for some context that would make this make sense. "You what?" "I finally managed. I resigned," Rashida said, smiling like she was proud of herself. "I gave my notice this morning." "Well, technically it was immediate, but who cares about 2 weeks when you're starting a new chapter of your life?" My mind started racing. Her job at the marketing firm paid $85,000 a year. We had been married 7 months. We were still figuring out our shared finances, still paying off wedding debt, still trying to build a savings cushion. "Wait, slow down," I said, holding up my hand. "You quit without talking to me first. I knew you would be supportive." "That is why I love you," she said breezily, as if this was a pleasant surprise and not a financial grenade. She turned her laptop toward me. "Look, I made a spreadsheet of everything. I have thought this through completely." The screen showed a detailed budget breakdown. Rashida had color-coded everything like some kind of business presentation. Monthly expenses: rent, $1,800. Car payment, $420. Insurance, $280. Groceries, $600. Utilities, $300. Gym membership, $120. And at the bottom, highlighted in yellow like a prize, self-discovery budget, $680. "What exactly is a self-discovery budget?" I asked, although I already felt like I did not want to know. "Well, I will need money for courses, books, maybe some traveling to find myself," Rashida said matter-of-factly. "I am thinking about life coaching certification, or maybe pottery classes, or perhaps writing a novel. The possibilities are endless when you are not trapped in corporate slavery." I rubbed my temples, trying to process this. My head already hurt from working in the sun all day, and this conversation was like stepping into a different reality. "So let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You quit your job, and now you want me to cover everything. What does this add up to?" "Only $4,200 a month," she said, as if she were announcing a discount. "It is actually quite reasonable when you think about it." "Reasonable?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "That is more than I bring home in a month." Rashida sighed, like I was being obtuse. "But we are married now. Your money is our money. This is what partners do. They support each other's dreams and growth." I looked at her beaming face, then back at the spreadsheet. 7 months married, and she had just made a decision that would fundamentally change our entire financial situation without even mentioning it to me first. I could feel my heartbeat in my neck. "I need to understand this better," I said. "When exactly did you decide this was a good idea?" "I have been feeling unfulfilled for months," she said, folding her arms and leaning back. "That job was sucking my soul dry. I am meant for something greater, something that feeds my spirit. Do you not want me to be happy?" "Of course I want you to be happy," I said. "But we have responsibilities. We have bills. We are still paying off the wedding. And now you want me to cover over $4,000 a month while you find yourself? Her expression shifted, just slightly, but I caught it. Irritation, disappointment, a hint of accusation. I thought you would be more supportive, Rashida said. This is about my personal growth and finding my true calling in life. And what exactly is your true calling? I asked. I do not know yet. That is the whole point. She lifted her chin, eyes shining with conviction. I need time and space to explore without the pressure of a soul-crushing 9-to-5 job. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out our neighborhood street, the parked cars, the kids riding bikes, the neighbors dragging trash cans to the curb. When we had moved in together, we had calculated our budget based on both our incomes. Her salary covered most of the rent and her personal expenses. My income from construction covered utilities, groceries, and my truck payment. It was tight, but it worked. So your plan, I said, turning back toward her, is for me to work construction while you explore pottery and life coaching. When you say it like that, you make it sound selfish, she said, her mouth pinching slightly. How would you say it? I asked. I would say I am brave enough to pursue my passion instead of wasting my life in a cubicle, Rashida answered without missing a beat. And I would say my husband should be proud that his wife has the courage to follow her dreams. The confidence in her voice was something else. It was like she had already decided this was happening, and my opinion was just a formality. We have been married 7 months, I said quietly. 7. And you made this decision completely on your own. I made this decision for us, for our future, she insisted. Do you want to be married to someone who is miserable and unfulfilled? I sat back down and looked at her spreadsheet again. Under the self-discovery budget, she had itemized things like vision board supplies, $30, monthly tarot readings, $150, inspirational retreat weekend, $500. This is not going to work, I said finally. Her face immediately changed. What do you mean it is not going to work? I mean exactly what I said, I replied. You need to find employment. But we are married, Rashida said, as if that settled everything. Your money is our money. This is what partners do. There it was, the expectation laid bare. 7 months of marriage, and somehow, I had become solely responsible for funding her journey of self-discovery. No, I said. This is what you have decided partners do, without consulting your partner. The argument that followed was unlike anything we had ever had before. Voices rose and overlapped. At one point, she grabbed her phone and pulled up screenshots of articles about supporting your spouse's career transition and investing in your partner's potential. Look, I even researched this, she said, scrolling furiously. Successful couples make sacrifices for each other's growth. Growth, I said. You have not even figured out what you want to grow into yet. That is the beauty of it, Rashida replied. I am keeping my options open. I already canceled my health insurance through work and enrolled in yours. You did what? I stared at her. I also put a deposit down for a life coaching certification course that starts next month, she added. My jaw dropped. When? Last week, she said. It is only $3,200 for the full program. I used my savings account. She said it casually, like she was telling me she had picked up milk on the way home. Your savings account that was supposed to be for emergencies. I asked. This is an emergency, she said earnestly, pressing her hand to her chest. An emergency of the soul. I was dying a slow death in that office, filing reports that nobody reads and sitting through meetings about meetings. I walked to the refrigerator and grabbed a beer, needing a moment to process what I was hearing. The cold of the bottle did not do much to cool the heat building in my chest. So let me make sure I understand this timeline, I said. Last week, you spent your emergency fund on a coaching course. This week, you quit your job and enrolled in my health insurance. And now you are asking me to cover over $4,000 a month while you figure out your life purpose. I'm not asking, Rashida said smoothly. I am informing you of our new household budget. The casual way she said stopped me cold. Our new household budget, she repeated. We are a team now. When one person levels up, we both benefit. Think of it as an investment. An investment in what exactly? I asked. In me. In my potential. In our future together. She was getting animated again, hands moving as if she were giving a presentation. I have already started a vision board. Want to see? Before I could answer, she ran to our bedroom and came back with a poster board covered in magazine cutouts. Pictures of women doing yoga on beaches, luxury cars, expensive jewelry, and houses that cost more than I would make in 5 years. This represents the abundant life we are going to create together once I unlock my true potential, Rashida said proudly. I stared at the vision board. There was a picture of a woman getting a massage with the caption "Self-care is not selfish" pasted next to an image of a private jet. And how exactly is my construction salary supposed to fund this abundant life? I asked. You were thinking too small, she said. Once I complete my transformation and start my coaching business, I will be making 6 figures, helping other people break free from their limiting beliefs. What coaching business? I asked. The one I'm going to start, Rashida said. I have not worked out all the details yet, but I have a natural gift for helping people see their potential. My friend Janelle says I should charge premium rates because I have such a unique perspective on life. Janelle from your old book club? I asked. Former book club, she corrected. I have evolved beyond that energy. Janelle has been doing life coaching for 3 months now, and she has already made like $400. I set down my beer and really looked at my wife. 7 months ago, she had been excited about her marketing job, talking about quarterly projections and client strategies. Now, she was planning to become a life coach based on a friend who had made $400 in 3 months. What about our mortgage discussions? I asked. We talked about maybe buying a house in 2 years when we had saved enough for a down payment. Houses are just material possessions, Rashida said with a wave of her hand. True wealth comes from personal fulfillment and spiritual alignment. Spiritual alignment does not pay rent, I said. She crossed her arms and gave me a look I had never seen before. Part disappointment, part contempt. I am disappointed in your reaction, she said. I expected more support from my husband. Support. I repeated. You made a unilateral decision that affects our entire future without consulting me. That is not how marriage works. This is exactly how marriage works, she insisted. When I was single, I had to make all my decisions alone. Now I have a partner who is supposed to have my back. That is the whole point of getting married. The logical leap was staggering. Somehow in her mind, marriage meant she could make whatever choices she wanted, and I would automatically be responsible for the consequences. Having your back does not mean I automatically fund whatever you decide to do, I said. So you want me to go back to that toxic work environment? She shot back. You want me to sacrifice my mental health for a paycheck? I want you to act like an adult who is married and has financial responsibilities, I said evenly. Her face flushed red. I'm acting like an adult, she insisted. Adults follow their passions instead of settling for mediocrity. Adults also communicate with their spouses before making life-changing decisions, I replied. She was quiet for a moment. Then her expression shifted to something that looked almost pitying. I can see you are not ready to embrace this mindset shift, Rashida said softly. That is okay. Change is scary for some people, but I am moving forward with or without your emotional support. That weekend, while she was at a manifestation workshop, I decided to get a clearer picture of her finances. What I discovered made my blood pressure spike. Our joint checking account, which we had opened after the wedding, was nearly empty. The $2,800 we had in there a month ago was down to $340. When I pulled up the transaction history, I found charges I did not recognize. Enlightenment Essentials, $480. Crystal Harmony Studio, $220. Transform Your Life Seminar, $650. I grabbed our laptop and logged into her personal accounts. What I found was worse than I had imagined. Her savings account, which had $8,500 3 months ago, was completely drained. The transactions showed a pattern. Life coaching course deposit. Several payments to something called Spiritual Awakening Intensive. Multiple purchases from websites selling crystals, essential oils, and self-help programs. I felt a chill run down my back as I scrolled. This was not just reckless spending. This was obsession. On the kitchen counter, Rashida had left her phone, screen still lit. A text thread was open. Messages with her friend Taryn from 2 months ago. Taryn. Girl, you need to train him early. My husband fought me on the career change thing too, but I wore him down. Rashida, how long did it take? Taryn, like 6 months. I started small. Just asked him to cover my car payment while I transitioned. Then gradually added more expenses. Now he pays for everything while I build my wellness empire. Rashida, that is genius. I should start planting seeds now. Taryn, exactly. Make it seem like it is for both of you. Talk about our future and investing in our happiness. Men, eat that up. My hand tightened around the phone as I scrolled further back and found more messages. Rashida, I am thinking of just quitting without telling him and presenting it as a done deal. Easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, right? Taryn, bold move. I respect it. He will have no choice but to step up and be supportive. Rashida, I already canceled my health insurance and signed up for his. He does not know yet. There were dozens of these messages dating back almost to our wedding day. Plans to manipulate me into becoming her personal bank. Strategies for emotional manipulation. Screenshots of articles about making your husband the provider while you pursue your passion. The most recent message was from yesterday. Rashida had written, Phase 1 complete. He is not happy, but he cannot exactly kick me out. Now I just need to hold firm until he accepts the new normal. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling like I had been punched in the stomach. This was not a sudden decision or a quarter-life crisis. This was a calculated con job, and I was the mark. The front door opened, and Rashida walked in carrying a sage smudge stick and wearing a new crystal necklace that probably cost more than my work boots. How was your day, babe? Did you do anything fun? She asked, back in her cheerful act. Productive, I said, my voice calm in a way that surprised even me. I spent some time going through our finances. Her smile flickered for just a second. Oh, find anything interesting? Yeah, actually, I said. I found it interesting that you have been planning this for months. I found it interesting that you have spent over $10,000 preparing for your spiritual journey without mentioning it. And I found it fascinating that Taryn seems to think manipulating husbands is some kind of art form. The color drained from Rashida's face. You went through my phone, she said. You left it open on the counter, I replied. But that is your response? Now I can explain, or I'm sorry you found out that way. Just anger that I discovered your plan. She set down her sage and crossed her arms defensively. Those messages are taken out of context. What context makes train him early sound better? I asked. We were just venting, she said quickly. Women talk about relationship challenges. That is normal. Relationship challenges? I repeated. You were plotting to financially manipulate me before we had been married 6 months. I was not plotting anything, Rashida snapped. I was working through my feelings about wanting to leave my job. I pulled up the messages on my phone and read them back to her word for word. With each text, her defense got weaker and her voice got shriller. You are making this sound worse than it is, she said finally. Am I? I asked. Because from where I am sitting, it looks like you married me to have a financial safety net while you play entrepreneur with crystals and life coaching. That is not true, she said, tears suddenly filling her eyes. I love you. You love the financial security I represent, I said quietly. There is a difference. She started crying in earnest then, sobs building in her chest, shoulders shaking. I had seen her cry like this before, usually right after she had done something she did not want to take accountability for. How can you say that after everything we have built together? She choked out. What have we built? I asked. We have been married 7 months, and you have spent that entire time planning how to quit your job and stick me with the bills. I was unhappy, she said. I was trying to find a way to be fulfilled while still being a good wife. A good wife who lies, manipulates, and makes unilateral decisions that affect both our lives, I said. The tears stopped as quickly as they had started, replaced by a look I was beginning to recognize as her true personality breaking through the performance. Her eyes hardened, her jaw set. Fine, Rashida said. You want to know the truth? Yes, I planned this. Yes, I expected you to support me. That is what marriage is. I did not marry you to struggle financially. I married you to build a better life. And that includes having the freedom to pursue my passions. There it was. The mask was finally off. No more pretense about spiritual journeys and finding herself. She had married me to be her personal bank account. So what happens now? I asked. Now we move forward as a team, she said. I will pursue my coaching business, and you will handle the traditional provider role. It is a classic arrangement that has worked for centuries. Except in classic arrangements, people discussed it before getting married, I said. We're discussing it now, Rashida replied. No, I said. You are informing me of what you have already decided. Just like you informed me about quitting your job and spending our savings. She sat down at the kitchen table and pulled out a notebook. Look, I've been thinking about this practically too, she said. I calculated that if you work some weekend overtime, maybe pick up a side job, we can make this work financially. The audacity took my breath away. You want me to work more jobs to fund your life coaching dreams? I asked. It is temporary, she said quickly. Once my business takes off, I will be making more than I ever did at that marketing job. Janelle knows a woman who made $15,000 last month just from online coaching sessions. Janelle also told you that she made $400 in 3 months, I said, which breaks down to about $1.30 an hour. That is because she was still learning, Rashida protested. I have natural talent for this. I have already helped 3 people just this week with their limiting beliefs. Help them with what? I asked. Basic life guidance, she said. Like when Taryn was stressed about her credit card debt. I told her debt is just negative energy and she needs to manifest abundance instead of focusing on lack. I stared at her. Taryn has credit card debt and you told her to manifest her way out of it. The law of attraction is a proven principle, Rashida said. What you focus on expands. What expands is interest rates when you ignore credit card payments, I said. She shook her head. See, this is exactly the kind of scarcity mindset that is keeping you stuck. I'm trying to elevate both of us, but you are trapped in old paradigms about money. I walked to our bedroom and grabbed a suitcase from under the bed. When I came back to the living room, she was lighting a candle on the coffee table. What are you doing with that suitcase? She asked, narrowing her eyes. You have 2 weeks, I said. 2 weeks for what? To find a job. Any job. If you're not employed by Friday, 2 weeks from now, this marriage is over. She laughed. Actually laughed. You are not serious. I'm completely serious, I said. You cannot give me an ultimatum, Rashida said, her voice rising. We are married. You cannot just kick me out. Watch me, I said. This is insane, she said. You are throwing away our marriage because I wanted to follow my dreams. I am ending this marriage because you lied to me for months, manipulated me, spent our savings without my knowledge, and expect me to fund your fantasies while you contribute nothing, I said. The candle flickered as she stood up, her face cycling through shock, anger, and something that looked a lot like panic. I will call your mother, she said. I will call my parents. Everyone will know how unsupportive you are being. Go ahead, I said. Tell them you quit your job without consulting your husband and expected him to cover $4,200 a month in expenses while you take pottery classes. I will tell them you gave me an ultimatum and threatened divorce because I wanted to better myself, she said. Make sure you tell them the whole story, I replied, including the part where you have been planning this manipulation since our honeymoon. She grabbed her phone and immediately started dialing. I went to the kitchen and started making dinner while she had her conversation in the living room, pacing back and forth. I could hear fragments, unsupportive, threatened to throw me out, trying to follow my passion, does not understand modern marriage. After about 20 minutes, she came back into the kitchen looking smug. My mother agrees that you are being unreasonable, Rashida announced. She said successful marriages require compromise and investment in each other's growth. What did you tell her about spending our savings without my knowledge? I asked. I told her we used our savings to invest in my education, she said. Which is the truth? Did you tell her you have been planning this manipulation for months? I asked. I told her I have been working up the courage to leave a toxic job situation and that my husband should be supporting that transition, Rashida replied. And did you tell her you expect me to work overtime and side jobs to fund your vision board fantasies? I asked. Her confidence wavered slightly. I told her we are adjusting our budget to accommodate my career change. Right, I said. So you told her a version of the truth that makes you look good and me look bad. I told her facts, she insisted. You told her selected facts, I said. There's a difference. My phone started buzzing with text messages. My sister Tanisha. Can you call me? Really worried about you guys. Her mother. I think you need to be more understanding of your wife's needs. Even Taryn. Heard you are having marital issues. Happy to chat about compromise. I showed Rashida my phone. Let me guess, I said. You have activated the entire support network. People who care about me are naturally concerned when they hear my husband is threatening our marriage over money, she said. 2 weeks, I repeated. Find a job or find a divorce attorney. Instead of job hunting, she doubled down. The next morning, I woke up to find business cards scattered across our kitchen table. Rashida Brooks, Life Transformation Coach. They read in flowing script with a lotus flower logo in the corner. I ordered 1,000 of these, she said proudly when she saw me pick one up. Professional presentation is crucial for premium pricing. You ordered business cards instead of applying for jobs, I said. I am building my coaching practice, she replied. Why would I apply for soul-crushing corporate jobs when I am launching my own business? Because you have 11 days left before I file for divorce, I said. She waved her hand dismissively. You're not going to divorce me. You were just scared of change. That afternoon, while I was at work, she called my supervisor. I was tightening bolts on a steel frame when I saw our foreman motioning me over. Curtis, he said, your supervisor wants to talk to you. Leonard Briggs, my supervisor, met me near the trailer. Your wife called, Leonard said, looking puzzled. She wanted to discuss your work schedule. My stomach dropped. What did she say? Asked if we had weekend shifts available and whether we pay overtime for Saturday work, he said. Said you two were saving for something special and could use the extra income. My jaw clenched. I'm sorry about that, I said. She should not have called your number. No worries, he said, though his brow was furrowed. But heads up, she also asked about our company's policy on short-term loans for employees. I felt heat rise up my neck. She asked about loans. Yeah, Leonard said. Mentioned something about a business investment opportunity. I told her we do not do that kind of thing. When I got home that evening, Rashida was on the couch with her laptop, surrounded by printed articles about divorce laws. Highlighters and sticky notes were scattered around like confetti. Learned anything interesting? I asked, dropping my tool bag by the door. Actually, yes, she said, not looking up. Did you know that in this state, I am entitled to spousal support during divorce proceedings? And if we have been living as a single-income household, I could qualify for ongoing alimony. We have not been living as a single-income household, I said. You quit your job 8 days ago. But I can demonstrate financial dependence, Rashida said calmly. I have already canceled my car insurance and added myself to your policy. I closed my personal checking account, and we have been using the joint account for all my expenses. The calculated nature of it was stunning. She was not just expecting me to fund her dreams. She was systematically creating a paper trail to support financial dependence claims in divorce court. You have been busy, I said. I have been strategic, she corrected. I also talked to an attorney this morning, Calvin Holmes. He specializes in protecting women's rights in divorce proceedings. You hired a divorce attorney, I said. Consultation only, she said. But he was very encouraging about my position. Apparently, sudden abandonment of financial support obligations can be considered marital misconduct. I sat down across from her. So your plan is to force me to pay for your life coaching business by threatening legal action, I said. My plan is to save our marriage by helping you understand your responsibilities as a husband, she replied. And if you do not accept those responsibilities, then you will learn about them through the court system. Calvin says I have a strong case for temporary and permanent alimony, especially since you have been the higher earner during our marriage. I have been the higher earner for 8 days, I said. The trend is not established. My phone rang then. An unfamiliar number. I answered. Hey, this is probably weird, the voice said, but I thought you should know your wife did not resign from her position here. It was Maurice King from Rashida's former workplace. What do you mean she did not resign? I asked. She was terminated last Friday for falsifying her timesheet and using company resources for personal business, Maurice said. The room felt like it was spinning. Falsifying timesheets. Using company resources. She had been leaving early and marking full days, he continued. Using our conference rooms for personal video calls and charging personal purchases to her company credit card. The Human Resources Department had been building a case for months. I thought you should know, especially if she's telling you something different. I looked at Rashida, who was pretending to read her legal documents, but obviously listening to every word. Thanks for letting me know, Maurice, I said. There's more, he added. She applied for unemployment benefits and listed laid off due to downsizing as the reason for termination. That is fraud. She was not laid off, and there was no downsizing. After I hung up, Rashida finally looked at me. I can explain, she started. You were fired for stealing from your company, I said. I was not stealing, she protested. I borrowed the conference room a few times for important calls, and sometimes I left early when my work was finished. The timesheet thing is a technicality. You committed fraud at your job and with unemployment benefits, I said. Those are just corporate policies designed to control employees, she said, rolling her eyes. I was being efficient with my time management. And the company credit card. I bought lunch a few times when I was working late. It is normal business practice. Maurice said you charged crystals and a yoga mat to your company card. I replied. Those were wellness investments for productivity enhancement, Rashida said. The lies just kept coming, each one more absurd than the last. She had not quit to pursue her dreams. She had been fired for stealing and was now trying to scam unemployment benefits while simultaneously planning to take me for alimony. You have been lying about everything, I said. I have been protecting myself in a hostile work environment, she shot back. And now I am protecting myself in a hostile marriage environment. You are a fraud, I said. You are a con artist. I am an entrepreneur who thinks outside traditional limitations, she said. I stood up and grabbed my car keys. I'm going to my brother's house, I said. Running away will not solve anything, Rashida said. Neither will living with a criminal, I replied. I'm not a criminal, she said. I am your wife. You are both, I said. And in 3 days, you will just be a criminal. I spent 2 days at my brother's house, during which time she blew up my phone with alternating threats and apologies. Voice messages range from, I'm calling my lawyer, to, I love you and we can work this out, to, you will regret abandoning your wife when she needed you most. On Thursday morning, I came home to find the locks changed. I called a locksmith and had them replaced within an hour. When I walked inside, she was gone, but she had left a note on the kitchen table. Since you have chosen to abandon our marriage, the note read, I have moved in with Taryn temporarily. My attorney will be in contact about dividing our assets and establishing spousal support. This could have been handled amicably, but you chose conflict. Namaste. She had also taken every piece of furniture we had bought together, my coffee maker, and somehow even the shower curtain. What she had left behind were all the bills, utilities, rent, her car payment, and a credit card statement showing $8,400 in charges I had never seen before. Friday afternoon, I got a call from attorney Calvin Holmes. This is regarding the dissolution of marriage proceedings between you and your wife, he said. She has authorized me to present a settlement offer. I am listening, I said. She is requesting $2,200 monthly in temporary spousal support while divorce proceedings are pending, plus $1,800 monthly in permanent alimony for 5 years post-divorce, he said. She is also claiming 50% of all marital assets, including your truck and any retirement savings. What is she offering in return? I asked. She will waive her claim to the apartment lease and agree to an expedited divorce timeline, he replied. I almost laughed. Counteroffer, I said. She gets nothing and pays her own attorney fees. That is not realistic given her financial circumstances, he said carefully. Her financial circumstances are the result of committing fraud at her workplace and spending our savings on crystals and life coaching courses. I said, I'm not sure what you think you are implying here, but I'm stating facts. She was terminated for theft and falsified her unemployment claim. I have documentation. There was a pause. I will need to discuss this with my client, he said. Monday morning, I filed for divorce myself, citing fraud and abandonment. I included copies of her text messages with Taryn, documentation from her former employer about the termination, and bank records showing how she had drained our accounts without my knowledge. Tuesday, Calvin called back. My client is willing to accept a no alimony settlement in exchange for expedited processing, he said. What about her claims to my truck and retirement savings? I asked. She will waive those claims as well, he said. And her attorney fees, she will handle those independently. The divorce was finalized within 6 weeks. Rashida got nothing except the bill for her legal consultation and the knowledge that unemployment fraud is a felony that can result in prosecution. 3 months later, I ran into Maurice at a hardware store. He was in line behind me, holding a box of nails and some paint rollers. How is life post-divorce? He asked. Peaceful, I said. Expensive lesson, but worth it. Well, you will appreciate this, Maurice said. Your ex-wife applied for a job with us again last month. Seriously? I asked. used a different name on the application, and claimed she had never worked for our company before, Maurice said, shaking his head. The system flagged it immediately, since she is still on our do not rehire list. What is she doing now? I asked. Last I heard, he said, she is working part-time at a cell phone store and living with 3 roommates. Taryn kicked her out after she could not pay rent and tried to charge her utilities to Taryn's credit card. I shook my head. Some people never learn, I said. Actually, there is more, Maurice added. She is being investigated by the state for unemployment fraud. Turns out she filed claims in 2 different states using slightly different personal information. 6 months after the divorce, I got a text from an unknown number. I know I hurt you and I am sorry, it read. I have learned a lot about myself, and I would like to talk about giving us another chance. I stared at it for maybe 3 seconds, then deleted it without responding. A year later, I was remarried to a woman named Erica, a black nurse who worked long shifts at the hospital, paid her own bills, and discussed major decisions before making them. We split expenses proportionally based on our incomes. We both contributed to savings. We argued sometimes, like any couple, but our disagreements were about real life, whose turn it was to cook, where we should go for the holidays, not about one of us secretly blowing $10,000 on crystals. Neither of us owned a single crystal or vision board. Sometimes we would joke about it when we passed a metaphysical shop downtown, and Erica would squeeze my hand and say, "Thank you for not making me fund your spiritual awakening." Sometimes, late at night, I would lie awake and think about Rashida. I would wonder what would have happened if I had been the type of person to enable her manipulation, if I had let guilt and pressure override my common sense. I would imagine the years I might have spent working extra jobs to fund her delusions while she contributed nothing but emotional blackmail and legal threats. The best decisions are not always the easiest ones. They do not always make you look good to your in-laws or your friends in the moment, but they are always the most honest ones. In the end, I chose honesty over harmony, and it saved my life. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.